The Mario Kart series stands tall as one of the most well-known names ever. But before it was a friendship-destroying powerhouse on the Switch, and before it was the golden standard of middle school field trips on the DS, it all began right here. Super Mario Kart. It quickly rose to become a mega hit, selling almost 9 million copies worldwide, but amongst those 9 million, I was one of them. I was one of the small baby few that got to experience Super Mario Kart on the original Super Nintendo, and without a shadow of a doubt, I can say that it is one of the most difficult games I have ever played. So today, I'm going to go through each and every track this game has to offer and figure out, has Super Mario Kart aged well? Have I aged well? The answer might shock you. But first, this video is sponsored by Hello, that's the freshest Patreon I've ever seen. For as low as $1, you could gain access to early videos, behind-the-scenes looks, editing commentaries, and much more at patreon.com/Shyntos. You could also subscribe and like the video, thank you. Feeling speedy, I entered into a 100cc race, chose my main man Yoshi, and started up the Mushroom Cup. The first track to start off the entire Mario Kart series as a whole is Mario Circuit 1. Man, I sure hope I get to see 4 different iterations of this. Given it's the first track of the game, it's exactly what you'd expect. A basic road to race on with coins scattered all around and a spot to pick up some incredibly flat item boxes. As you can see, I'm let's call it getting the hang of the controls. There's a few obstacles around here and there, but it's a great place to get the hang of the controls. So I'll be throwing this into a classy B tier. As you can see here, we've got quite the track lineup, and not a single one even looks like the other. And this is when I ran into a problem. See, even though I got a very respectable 7th place, which is one away from last, I still was met with Yoshi exploding and I ranked out. Why? In Super Mario Kart, if you don't place in the top 4 of that race, it's not just that you don't get any points at all, but you also are immediately disqualified and forced to quit entirely, or use one of your 3 lives to try again. So if I don't rank higher than 4th place, I can't play the tracks, meaning I can't make this tier list, and Super Mario Kart doesn't know that I'm still getting the hang of the controls. So I devised a new plan. After trying 2 more times on 100cc and having to deal with the speed demons that are Koopa Troopa and Donkey Kong Jr., I am going to play on 50cc instead. It's just easier, man. However, before I could start the next race, my mom came in and demanded she show me her skill.
Can I sit there?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so aim, start. I gotta remember. Oh, shit. I used to be so good at this, your dad used to, so. He would try so hard to beat my time, he just couldn't. I mean, listen, you know, some of us have it.
Okay.
Uh-oh.
Just barely shut up. No!
Alright.
That was a good one.
You know.
You didn't finish.
Oh!
Anyways, back to the action. 50cc, Yoshi, Mushroom Cup. Easiest first place of my life. Suck it, Koopa Troopa. That finally leads us to, wow, okay, only our 2nd track. Donut Plains 1. I'm genuinely not sure if there's different driving mechanics for dirt and mud compared to an actual road, but damn, it's a little slippery. With a clear blue sky, water that we very fortunately can't fall into thanks to this bridge, and a terrifying windy road, Donut Plains 1 is a bit nicer of a course to look at than Mario Circuit 1, but if I go even a little too fast on this dirt, I'm bound to skid out. So I'm just gonna put them on the same level in B tier. And another gorgeous first place over my mortal enemy, Koopa Troopa. It wasn't even close. Ghost Valley 1 is next on our Mushroom Cup journey, and it's a crazy simple, but a very fun one. I don't know why, but even as a kid, I remember adoring this track. I think that has to do with this 2-foot gap jump in the course feeling a whole lot bigger and scarier back then, but I don't care, it's still badass. Besides the fact we're racing on a creaky old bridge, the main takeaway are all the ghosts watching us from above. I'm not sure if they're all small and floating above us, or if they're giant and watching us from afar, forcing us to race until we too become one of them. This track is extremely short, as each lap took like 16 seconds on average to complete. I mean, I finished in first almost 10 seconds before Koopa Troopa even crossed the finish line. Maybe that's why I like this course so much. Oh well, a little A tier never hurt nobody. Now we're at the dreaded Bowser's Castle. 1. As much as I haven't mentioned the background songs that play yet, they're all genuinely fantastic, and Bowser's Castle is one of the best. It's a remix of the song that plays when you actually fight Bowser in Super Mario World, and sets the tone of just what kind of race we're in, especially matched up with the environment. Love Donut Plains music. Makes me feel nourished, moisturized, unbothered. But Bowser's Castle? I'm either burning alive or on my way to burn someone alive, and we're just gonna have to see who lights the fuse first. Bowser's Castle 1 has lots of jumpable lava gaps in the middle of the track. It may not be a bottomless pit of void, but it's the same concept, you know, death. Fortunately, it's pretty easy to not fall in the lava, but you are gonna have to deal with lots of these thwomps or thwumps. I got first place again, A tier. Did you ever think you would live to see the day you get to see Mario Circuit 2 in the exact same cup as Mario Circuit 1? Well, you shouldn't have. Fundamentally, these two tracks operate the exact same as one another, but there's one thing Mario Circuit 2 has over its prequel, and that's a big ol' speedy jump in the middle. I know the last like 3 maps now have been praised for having, wow, holy crap, a single yellow line indicating a jump. This is peak media. But when you're working with objects that look like this, and faraway characters that look like this, you gotta take what you can get. So, as I was saying, this particular leap actually goes over the course itself, so you can soar high above the other racers that are less than you. Also, oil spills. After lapping poor little Luigi, I found myself crossing the finish line in first place. With a successful race well run and a hearty congratulations, I was in high spirits and gave Mario Circuit 2 the first S tier. Next on our quest was the Flower Cup, and more importantly than that, I felt like I had officially gotten a hang of the controls. Yeah, this is happening. Our first track featured is Choco Island 1, which is set on, who would have guessed, Chocolate Island. However, contrary to that name, this is not this. Not this, not that, and most definitely not that. Choco Island 1 is like Whoppers. No, not those. We're talking about the malted, milky malformations that spawn at the bottom of every Halloween candy sack. A somewhat chocolatey looking, bland tasting item that contains no real fun to be had aside from the fact that it's chocolate. And sure, they were good 50 years ago. If this map was called Reese's Crunchy Cookie Big Cup Island, I would have gotten first place. C tier. Oftentimes, sequels are regarded as lesser or worse than the original. Good thing that wouldn't be the case for Ghost Valley 2. He says, opening the case for Ghost Valley 2. I don't know if it's because I've gotten older in the few minutes since I've seen Ghost Valley 1, but it's not scary anymore. There's no spooky 47-foot wide gap anymore. Now the only thing resembling a spooky obstacle is a creaky, broken off ledge, and a lot of the show that changed my entire life, hole in the wall. It was canceled after 6 months. But there's no stupid piles of mud or oil slicks all over the place resembling obstacles, and it is genuinely a fun map to take turns on with sharp but manageable corners, and little did I know I was gonna need that turning practice. It was now the final lap. As I approached the finish line, Koopa Troopa was far, far ahead of me, but I made a last-ditch effort to drift the corner as tight as I could, narrowly hit the boost, and at the last moment, I overtook Koopa Troopa. Classy B tier. Donut Plains 2. Remember that thing I said about sequels not being as good? Well, this one is even worse. I hate this map. This place is too goddamn twisty and loopy. Every 3.2 seconds, you gotta be squeezing left and right as hard as you can or you won't survive out here. Don't even get me started on this section. You've gotta set your car to anti-gravity mode just to keep up. And that won't even be invented for another 30 years. But Shyntos, didn't you say that you like Ghost Valley 2 because of its turns? Shut up! I like driving on this tile and handling corners like these, but when it's entirely on slippery dirt and looks like the maze on the back of a Denny's menu, I think I'm okay. D tier. Next up is Bowser's Castle 2. Hey, remember that thing I said about sequels not being as good? Don't worry. It somehow got worse. Whatever date and time you're watching this at, please feel free to mark down this exact moment as my final brain cell dying out.
There's no way he's talking about turns again.
You would be fucking surprised. Let's walk through this map step by step. At the start line, there's an immediate right turn onto a long stretch with a couple thwomps. Not too bad so far. Then I take a right turn, which ends up being a hook into the next area of road, so another right turn. After that, you're led abruptly into a wall, forcing you to take another right turn, into an immediate left turn. Wow, shocking. After your next left turn, there's a lava box positioned right in the middle, so you're primed to hit it just before taking a right turn. But thank God, there's another lava box in the middle, ready for me to smash into it before another right turn onto what I call Long Section 1, a place filled with cool lava jumps that give you a false sense of danger because literally just hold forward and you'll be fine until you reach a place I call Long Section 2, and you get to do the whole thing all over again. I used 2 of my lives on this before finally getting first. You take a look at this for longer than 2 seconds and tell me that you think driving on this would be fun. F tier. F for fun. The final map of the Flower Cup is Mario Circuit 3, a fan favorite amongst the Mario Circuit community, I'm sure. The whole track kind of looks like one of those is it a bunny or is it a duck kind of images, but I like the semi-symmetrical layout of it. The classic Mario bricks and pipes are aplenty here. They really won't be getting in your way much, but I do think this is definitely a more full-looking track visually, at least compared to some of the others. You look at the Mario circuits and it really feels like the epitome of racetrack. Also, for those who don't know, Super Mario Kart gives each computer racer their own specific item to use, which is bullshit, because like 6 times each map, Bowser will drive in front of me and drop this fireball out of nowhere. Why does he have that? Why can't I have that? But even with anvils, pitchforks, and flaming orbs being thrown at me, I still managed to sneak out a 3rd place in the final cup, which brought the total score to 33, just 2 points above Koopa Troopa. Most would agree this is a simple skill difference. Anyways, A tier. Now we can move on to the Star Cup. We're going from Mother Nature up into the furthest reaches of space. But then we're coming right back down and landing in Florida because it's time to visit Koopa Beach 1. Hopping from island to island, this is one of the few tracks where there's shallow enough water to trudge our way through. This marks the first time Cheep Cheeps make an appearance in the Mario Kart series, and is one of a surprising amount of tracks to not be featured in any recent mainline Mario Kart games. A majority of Super Mario Kart tracks can only be found in 2 other places, Mario Kart Tour and Mario Kart Super Circuit. But Super Circuit literally just has every Super Mario Kart track, so that doesn't count. Are you telling me Mario Kart 8 Deluxe didn't want 3 different versions of this? It's really not much more than just a barren sand circle, and aside from this one island having some like leaves thrown around the ground, there is not much in our way, and it's a very easy track to win. Though there's certainly no shame in 2nd place. B tier. You know how I feel about sequels, and you know how I feel about Whoppers, so I was just as surprised as you when Choco Island 2 wasn't completely unworthy of my time. The entire track itself is basically the main obstacle, aka dirt, to drive on all throughout. But what really stands out isn't the dirt, it's the mud. And it's not just a little bit of mud, it's an insane-o amount of mud. What more does a person need than the carnal nature that is a giant mud pit? Look at it. I think I get it now. While I was figuring out just how much I wanted to blow my load about a digital mud pit, I found someone describing Choco Island 2 like this. This track is the first of the hard tracks of the original game, in the way that it's the first one in which it is possible to fail to qualify and therefore lose a life. What? The first one you could possibly fail? Did you not play the shit show that was Bowser's Castle 2? Before you worry about losing a life, maybe you want to get one first. Person who wrote the description on the Choco Island 2 Mario Kart Wiki fandom page. B tier. Next in the Star Cup is Vanilla Lake 1. Finally a new track in the first entry to the Vanilla Lake series. Vanilla Lake and I have something in common. Not only was that my high school nickname, but we're both too white. Vanilla Lake is actually pretty unique for being essentially just a square inside of a square. There's cracks in the ice around the map, thick snow along the outside, pipes and colorful bricks placed in your path, who would have guessed, and ice blocks that break and bounce you back when you run into them. There is a lot going on in this track, and it's legitimately a fun challenge, but I can't tell the goddamn sky from the ground here. It's snowy, I get it, I live in Minnesota, but you can hardly tell if that's a giant killer ice brick or a fluffy patch of snow. And if you even glaze the snow for a single second, your speed drops severely, giving you plenty of time to consider just how you got yourself here, barely qualifying. C tier. Because I can't see anything. With the first Bowser's Castle map up in Paradise and the second one down in the depths of Mario Kart Hell, I have no idea what to expect for Bowser's Castle the Third. This is a tough map and relies on Hail Marying your way through path after path. Bowser's Castle 3 is one of the few maps that gives the player a couple choices on what direction to go. They're virtually the exact same outcome, and it's extremely hard to know where you're going to end up or what kind of secrets are along these stretches of road because the turns are so sharp you just have to keep moving. And yet, It's fun. And I don't mean fun like F-tier fun. I mean actual real fun. Swerving around, going off of dangerous lava jumps, taking daring corners and shortcuts. Except for this part in the beginning where the raceway shortens, basically forcing you to hit this wall no matter what. I should call her. Many people would describe this map as one of the hardest tracks in the game, so perhaps it's the thrill of the challenge that appeals to me. Maybe I just like the feeling of getting third place after already losing 2 lives. Bowser's Castle 3 is like everything I hate wrapped up into one package, and that's why I love it. S tier. The final track in the Star Cup is here, and just like each prior cup we've gone through, we're tackling Mario Circuit 4. This is easily the longest Mario Circuit track so far, and even with some solid ground to race on, it's very easy to slip off into the sidelines during a drift. The problem with Mario Circuit 4 is that it's Mario Circuit 4. We've already gotten to see this track 3 times, and there wasn't a whole lot that's different between these 3, so a 4th one kinda just makes that worse. You could have easily called this Mario Circuit 1 or Mario Circuit 2.8 HD Final Mix, and I wouldn't bat a single eye. And considering that this is the only Mario Circuit track to not be featured anywhere else outside of the Super Nintendo and Game Boy games, feels like the developers probably thought the same thing. C tier. After the Star Cup race, I managed to narrowly get 2nd place. I fucking hate you, Koopa Troopa. But with these 3 cups completed, I was primed to take on the Special Cup race. Uh-oh. I have made a terrible mistake. It wasn't until after I played through all the cups that I discovered you can't unlock the Special Cup unless you get 1st place in the 100cc variant of every single one. I didn't even play the Mushroom Cup in 100cc, let alone beat it. So the only way for me to play the Special Cups and finish this tier list would be to play all tracks all over again and do everything I can to get 1st. That sounds like a lot of work, so I'm not gonna do that. My next best solution was high risk, but very high reward. If I could just infiltrate the estate of the one man who loves Nintendo most, Bob Odenkirk. If I could get my way in there and manage to find his Super Nintendo, I just know he has a completed save for Super Mario Kart. Turns out Bob was more of a Sega Genesis kind of guy. My final solution was another risk. I would have to download Gulp Nintendo Switch Online. I discovered that Nintendo Switch Online's Super Nintendo library has Super Mario Kart, but that still just means I would have to replay it anyways. However, what this library also has is Super Mario Kart Special, a version of the game with everything unlocked. All I have to do is press A to open it up. I did it. Now we could take on the Special Cup and even drive in the 150cc class. I tried 150cc, it did not go well. I'm playing 100cc. Starting the Special Cup off, we're going right into Donut Plains 3, which is a familiar track for both old and new fans. Do not be fooled by the colorful, inviting nature of this track. It is a cold welcome into the terrifying world of the Special Cup, and you will find yourself spinning out of bounds and slamming into Monty Moles before you know it. So, I hope you brought your time travel boots. Apparently, Nintendo Switch Online has a way to roll back time, meaning any mistakes I make can immediately be rectified. It's like Adam Sandler's Click, only more important. Anyways, now that you know I'm a dirty lying cheater and get to experience any reality I want, Donut Plains 3 is a tough but fun map that I'm glad got a full remake on the Switch. If I didn't have the ability to rewind time, I might be singing a different tune, but even with that power, I still somehow barely qualified, so fuck you, Koopa Troopa. B tier. Also, I'm moving Donut Plains 2 down to C tier just because I can. Speaking of sewage waste, we're on to Koopa Beach 2. This island is packed to the brim with a whole boatload of nothing, and nothing. The inside of the track is completely closed off by Super Mario Kart's patented fun bricks, and they even extend out a little tail right here, just to really suck out all of that fun. The whole map, you're racing along the very edge of the sand, and even though you can drive on these leafy patches, it's gonna slow you down, meaning the total size of drivable track is quite small. This map just feels incomplete. Sure, there's a little splash zone section where you drive around in the water avoiding several drop-off hazards, but it really doesn't feel any different from just riding around on a big, poorly drawn circle. D D tier. Expectations are high and my diaper is filled because we're headed over to Ghost Valley 3. Where a lot of the Mario Circuit lineup tracks all kind of felt the same, Ghost Valley's tracks feel more like an actual progression of complexity and difficulty. I'm not necessarily saying that this isn't the case for other maps, I just noticed it especially with Ghost Valley. With each iteration, the track seems to become twistier, more difficult to manage, and more broken. Just like me. See, Ghost Valley 2 looks like a guy holding a gun, and Ghost Valley 3 looks like a gun holding a guy. They're completely different. Even though there are broken holes and shattered flooring all over the place, most of the times you fall off, it feels like it was actually your fault, and not just out of nowhere. Aside from a few of them, that wasn't my fault. Ghost Valley 3 has its flaws, but it's one of the only maps that manages to blend genuine challenge with genuine enjoyment. Plus, getting first place by less than half a second feels damn good. A tier. Vanilla Lake 2. This track is a lot like Koopa Beach 2, only it actually makes sense. The racing arena is surrounded by a giant crack of ice in the middle, revealing a frozen pool of water below it, and on the outside lies a hefty amount of fun blocks. So as I said, much like Koopa Beach 2, the actual area to race on isn't very big, and it's still very difficult to differentiate snow from yellow snow out here. But there's something about the tight nature that fits way more here than anywhere else. Feeling trapped in by walls and a massive frozen lake as you try to smash through ice blocks and avoid various obstacles, drowning, and whatever else Mario Kart has in store feels way more captivating here than in a beach setting. Don't get me wrong, it's still straight bullshit how you're expected to make a lot of these turns far too perfectly, and how hitting a single ice brick could put you in last for the entire race. But it's a step above its predecessor and a product of its time, for better or for worse. B tier. Finally, we are at the last track of the game, and it is easily the most iconic one, Rainbow Road. Every Rainbow Road you see now has evolved and grown from this one right here. The legacy behind this map is incredible, but for the actual racetrack itself, let's see if it holds up. Rainbow Road is far, far from the toughest or maybe even most interesting map we get to see, but the setting alone is impossible to ignore. Racing on a magical road high up in the sky with stars stretching for miles. The layout is honestly not much different at all from something like a Mario Circuit track, but that also means it's all about focusing on you and the track. Just pure racing. Except for these guys. I think they were just patched in. Every track I've looked at today has a story to tell. And do most, if not all of them, suck because Super Mario Kart isn't fun? Well, some would say yes, and others would say yes. But it would be a disservice to give Rainbow Road anything less than S tier. Having laid the foundation for generations to come, it's very hard to not acknowledge that fact, especially considering I am now a Super Mario Kart expert. What did you think of Super Mario Kart, Walter White?
I liked it. I was good at it.
Super Mario Kart may not be my favorite Mario Kart game or even my favorite anything, but I've loved getting the chance to replay it again now as a quote-unquote adult and really experience the game that started one of the most popular series in the world. Just like you can experience the best thing since canned bread by coming on over to the Shyntos Patreon. If you head to patreon.com/Shyntos for as low as $1, you get a brand new Shyntos video ready for you right now to watch that other baby brains won't be able to see until who knows when, as well as exclusive Patreon goodies. So sincerely thank you if you even consider stopping by and supporting. I've got a lot of really fun videos on the way and some really cool stuff coming for Patreon and YouTube supporters. Which reminds me, you can also join and become a channel member if you want to as well. Yeah, please join. Thank you.